I would like to greet first our members of the National Academy of Science and Technology, led by our national scientists. We have Dr. Raul Papella, Dr. Ed Gomez, Dr. Angel Alcalan, and Dr. Ludi Cruz, and of course our academicians and corresponding members, to our host this time, which is the Mindanao cluster. That means regions 9, 10, 11, 12, and Caraga, 13. Of course, to Dr. Sani Laidan as Director of DOST-STII, which is taking the lead for Mindanao in this particular event. So thank you for your preparations, and I really appreciate the efforts of the National Academy of Science and Technology and our regional offices to bring these topics and subject matter to the awareness of our publics, and of course to share the different technical expertise which our scientists and researchers are only too willing to share with us in relation to our theme, which is caring for the country's carrying capacity. I would also like to greet our colleagues from the academe, from the private sector, from government, from media, all other honored guests and participants today. It was, I think, only less than a year ago, Dr. Laidan, when we were here to celebrate the Regional Science and Technology Week. Dr. Laidan, do you recall? It is in this place that dito rin ba natin ginawa yung Regional Science and Technology Week? Okay, this hall also. Okay. And allow me to just share some recollections, okay, that really lead to the theme that we have today, caring for the country's carrying capacity. First of all, when I served as President of the National Research Council of the Philippines, this was in 2002 to 2007, one of the major thrusts of the National Research Council of the Philippines then was to bring NRCP to the regions. And so they created or established an NRCP Visayas cluster and an NRCP Mindanao cluster. And mainly, the activities at that time was more of extension services. The members of NRCP, experts in their specific areas, went to the regions of Visayas and Mindanao to give lectures and share the results of their research activities. Now, of course, the National Academy of Science followed later with the holding of regional scientific meetings of NAST in Visayas and Mindanao. And of course, this meeting today is one of those meetings, and this is for the year 2019. I recall also our efforts when I was the President of the National Research Council of the Philippines, and the President then of the National Academy was the late Pedro Santos Ocampo. We agreed that NAST and NRCP will have joint priorities in research. Okay? Of course, NAST was mainly concerned with delivering policy advice to the national government and to the national leadership. And it was assumed, okay, that NRCP will be the workhorse in terms of doing the research projects in support of those priorities. I still recall the priorities that were agreed upon at that time. Number one was water. Number two was waste management. Number three was population. And I think, I cannot recall if there was a number four. But those were the three very important areas which was agreed upon. That was more than 10 years ago. And if we look back, the topics that we have today, caring for carrying capacity, is very much related or relevant to those issues. Okay, water, the management of waste, and population. Now, recall also that the President Duterte, when he assumed office, has identified a 10-point agenda. Okay, it is called an economic agenda, but there are items in the agenda that, of course, touches on the many aspects of our development. We identify specifically 4 areas or 4 items in the agenda where science, technology, and innovation can play a significant part and give significant contributions. Number 1, there is that agenda which says he wants to improve, or he wants competitiveness improve. Okay, that touches on both economic and other aspects. He also wants to uplift or to improve, okay, the situation of rural industries so that their position in the value chain can be elevated. Okay. He also mentioned global human resources, the development of globally or world-class human resources. And the last one is the promotion of science, technology, and the creative arts to enhance innovation for inclusive development. If we will look at these 4 items, the rest of the items in the agenda touches on several areas. But I think those 4 that I have identified is clearly areas where science and technology and innovation can really contribute much. And of course, the item on promoting science, technology, and the creative arts to enhance innovation for inclusive development is something that we are trying to work on. This is the first time we have seen, or at least for myself, the word science and technology and then creative arts put together in one agenda item, and so it is also a challenge for us. Now, from there, I'm just tracing how the theme today, okay, is very relevant, consistent, and supportive of all those things that I have mentioned. Recall that when I took over as Secretary of the Department of Science and Technology, we agreed that we will promote the tagline, or how do we call it, our battle cry, science for the people. And so in every program that we have, we try to show that these programs are really supportive of that theme, science for the people. When we had our National Science Technology Week last year, we adopted Science for the People itself as the theme of our celebration. And this year, when we opened the National Science and Technology Week on July 17, which is a month from now, the theme is still Science for the People, but there is an added phrase there, Science for the People, Technologies for Sustainable Development. And so that brings us to our theme today, caring for the country's caring capacity, which I believe deals with sustainable development. So let me just, anyway, I should give a short message, but you know, I woke up very early to fly to Jensen. And so I will spend a few more minutes just to remind you, but I'm happy that it is in the souvenir program. So can we flash very quickly the Sustainable Development Goals? It is in the one of the pages of our souvenir program. You can see it there, just to remind you of how, okay, or where carrying capacity comes into play. Okay? So the first item is freedom for no poverty, okay? Eradication of poverty. This is one of those sustainable development goals, I think, that is, shall we say, all-encompassing, very general, okay? There are a few others which is in the same category. Number 2 is zero hunger. This relates to food security. And we can easily relate carrying capacity, okay, to this particular sustainable development goal. Okay? We have to know how many people we have to support, okay, with food and attain food security, and how much our resources can sustain. The third one is good health and well-being. And I think it is again easy to understand how carrying capacity comes into this particular sustainable development goal. If, for example, our population, or let us say the number of houses in a community is very dense, okay? And if we do not adopt the proper systems, okay, to sustain or to maintain the quality of our resources like water and the environment, then it is going to put stress on this particular goal of good health and well-being. The fourth one is quality education. Okay? And we can see that in this particular area, we need a lot of forward planning. Okay? Every year, we open the school year with the news of the so many thousands of needed classrooms that are not available. And from year to year, that is the news that we get when we open our classes. Okay? Why cannot we do something about it if we know that the number of children who will enroll will be so much, okay, to prepare for this? The fifth sustainable development goal is gender equality. Okay? I must say, this belongs to the same category as sustainable goal number 1 when I say that it is all-encompassing and general. So, freedom from poverty, gender equality, these are things that we keep in our minds in the things that we do, but maybe we can also think of researches that will support this. Sustainable goal, development goal number 6, has something to do with clean water and sanitation. Okay? I noticed that many of the topics that have been lined up for discussion has something to do with clean water and sanitation. And really, this is heavily influenced, okay, by so-called carrying capacity. We had a roundtable discussion 2 weeks ago on Laguna de Bai, the lake, and the things that were discussed there were the carrying capacity in terms of the aquaculture industry and also the carrying capacity in terms of supplying water for domestic use. Sustainable goal number 7 is affordable and clean energy. Okay? I don't need to elaborate on this to say that in many instances, okay, the available energy is, or the supply is less than the demand. And so we have brownouts and shortages. And the word affordable is very important also because one of the common complaints of the different sectors really is all sectors is the high cost of energy. I was in Cebu July 12 to 13, for three events actually, I had a meeting with the Cebu Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which the Chamber has requested. I opened the regional invention and contest and exhibition at the same time, in the same venue, within the same period. And then I also keynoted the Entrepreneur Summit, okay, with the Cebu business team saying innovation in action, okay. And I must tell you that the issues or concerns that were brought up to me by the leaders of industry coming from the Cebu Chamber of Commerce and Industry has exactly something to do with carrying capacity. They were complaining of the cost of energy. And they said there are alternatives, but it is quite difficult to implement. They were talking of solar energy that has gone down, but the difficulty of sharing excess energy to the grid, okay, prevents them from fully implementing the shift to solar energy. They are talking of how wastewater treatment can be done more economically by using shared resources, because it is quite expensive if done individually. And they were talking of access to services that will treat hazardous waste. Okay? So the complaint is that there are certain hazardous waste that can be treated only in Manila, and they are willing to transport them from Cebu to Manila, but they cannot get permit to transport them from Cebu to Manila. So they are left with a situation which is very difficult. Sustainable goal number 8 is decent work and economic growth. Okay, of course, technology can help in this area. Okay, but again, this is one of those areas where I think an all-encompassing concern. Item 9 is goal number 9. Is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. And again, we can easily relate carrying capacity to this. Okay? Infrastructure now has to be planned in such a way that it can really, okay, carry the stress that is brought about by the present conditions, not only because of very high demand, no? Talk about our roads that were built during the Spanish time, okay, too narrow, okay, and even the infrastructure for sewerage that has been built more than 100 years ago, and so it gives a lot of problem because of carrying capacity. Even the climate change issue has affected the kind of infrastructure standards that we have to follow. Sustainable development 10 is reduced inequality. Okay, this is actually one of the themes that the President is always saying. He wants inequality reduced, he wants new opportunities created, and he wants an expansion of our potentials for growth. These are all directed towards reducing inequality. Sustainable goal number 11 is the word itself, is sustainable cities and communities. Again, carrying capacity comes into the picture. Okay, you plan the settlements in such a way that you can be assured of the supply, okay, of the needed, shall we say, utilities and everything that is needed for decent living. One of the initiatives that we have now is a research done by the School of Urban and Regional Planning that is developing a template, okay, that will help our growing cities to plan, okay, particularly in terms of the settlements, in terms of the infrastructure that will be needed. Sustainable Development number 12, Development Goal number 12, is responsible consumption. Maraming lingwahe itong nakuha ko. Responsible consumption patterns. Okay? Again, it has something to do with sustainability in terms of supply versus demand. Goal number 13, climate action. Okay? I have already mentioned the effects of climate change and the needed changes in our infrastructure and in other support facilities to reduce the risk involved. Sustainable Development Goal number 14, life below water. Again, this is one of the issues, the topics that will be discussed in this particular regional scientific meeting, and I think this is one of those things that we are very much concerned with. We are surrounded by water, and yet, well, there is a lot of threat to this particular shall we say, resource. Sustainable Development Goal number 15 is life on land. So, carrying capacity of our water resources, okay? There is an equivalent in terms of the carrying capacity in terms of life on land or the terrestrial, okay, environment that we have. The forest, okay, for example. 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. Okay? And lastly, Sustainable Goal number 17 is partnerships for the attainment of the goals. So, I need not say more, okay? And I just wanted you to be aware of the goals, okay, that we are all trying to achieve. Okay? Every country has set its programs so that they will achieve to a certain high extent the sustainable development targets and goals. And therefore, the meeting that DOST has initiated on carrying capacity is something that is very relevant, as I have said, very consistent and very supportive of our initiatives to meet the sustainable development goals. So I wish you a very productive day. Good morning.
To present the plaque of recognition to our honorable guest, Honorable Fortunato Peña, Secretary of the Department of Science and Technology, for his unwavering support and embracing this occasion as guest of honor and speaker during the Mindanao Regional Scientific Meeting with the theme Caring for the Country's Carrying Capacity, held today, June 18, 2019 at the Filipino Grand Ballroom, the Farm, South Cotabato, Philippines, given this 18th day of June 2019 at Koronadal City, South Cotabato, Philippines, signed by Dr. Laitan, Regional Director, DOST-STII, and Academician Rodora Sansa, President of the National Academy of Science and Technology, Philippines.